Hello and welcome. My name is Debbie Morgan and I'm the Director for Primary here at the NCTM. Huge welcome. This is the fourth year of Mastering Number. To date, over 10,000 schools have completed the programme, and we hope you're here because you've heard exciting things about how the programme has helped their children achieve and enjoy maths. The potential of the programme is huge and exciting, but the impact is only realised through fidelity and an understanding of the underlying principles. So you need to give its implementation into your school the time that it needs. I'm going to hand over now to Sue Evans, who's an assistant director in my team and the lead for the programme. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Debbie. So today I'm going to talk to you about the aims of the programme and to help you prepare for its implementation in your school. By the end of the session, I hope that you'll have a better understanding of the purpose of engaging in the Mastering Number programme and a shared vision of what you want for your pupils and also for yourselves as professionals. Let's start by thinking about your children then and what the intended outcomes of the programme are for your pupils. So first of all, it's about developing fluency in calculation and flexibility with number. We describe this as good number sense. We want your pupils to make good progress towards the early learning goals in reception and also contribute to the age-related and year group expectations in Key Stage 1. So the work that we're going to do with you as teachers is directly related to the knowledge and practice that you need to develop so that your children really have the best chance of achieving these outcomes. So what do we mean by good number sense then? So first of all, it's about subitizing. If you're a reception teacher, you'll know that this is part of the early learning goal, but this is also really important in Key Stage 1 that we build on those subitizing skills that children have started to develop in reception and develop those further. We also want children to have the skills and the understanding of the purpose of counting and to be really proficient in counting accurately. We're going to develop their understanding that numbers are composed of other numbers. We want children to know some of the ways that the numbers within 10 can be composed. And this is really crucial, and it's a big part of children developing number fact knowledge and arithmetic later on. We want children to have a good sense of ordinality. So ordinality is really knowing where numbers sit in the number system. So if you were to have a number line and ask a child if it was a 0 to 10 number line, and you asked a child where the number 5 or 9 sits on that number line, they'd be really confident in reasoning where those numbers sit. This, of course, is going to help them with comparing numbers, and comparison of numbers is a really important part of having good number sense. So knowing if you've got two sets of objects in front of you, being able to identify which set has got more or fewer objects in it, and if you're given two numbers, being able to identify which number is greater or less than the other is really important. So we'll be working on comparison as part of that number sense. And finally, a key part of the programme, particularly in Key Stage 1, is about children developing number fact knowledge. So I'm going to be talking more about how we're going to do that a little bit later in this session. So let's think now about reception and what its mastering number is going to look like in reception. So it might be that it feels quite similar to your current practice. It might be developing that practice further, or it might be that you feel this is going to be something quite different. So what we're going to ask you to do is to use the teaching materials that we provide to have a short whole class teaching session for all of the children in your class. And that teaching session is going to be supplemented by connected experiences in the wider environment. So that might be inside or outside. There'll be some small group work and there'll be some routines that will help you develop related to maths. So we're going to give you a learning trajectory, a series of materials that are building on children's learning over time. And these learning progressions are based on carefully researched sequences of learning. It's all rooted in research, and that research is mainly from Clements and Sarama. They're American researchers who developed some really detailed learning trajectories for those different aspects of number sense. And we've used those to write the materials for the programme. So what we're offering you, we think, is something really coherent for your children.
To show you some photographs now, and in a moment a short video to give you a better sense of what mastering number looks like in reception. So as I've said, there's some planning for some whole group sessions. You can see a picture of that here. The children are sitting together on the carpet, and in this session they've got some practical equipment that they're going to be using in pairs. There's also some planning for some small group activities. So what we ask is that you identify those children that maybe aren't making as much progress and aren't as confident with number, and you offer them some extra experiences in these small groups working with you so that they've got more chance of keeping up with their peers. So we're not talking here about the language, using the language of ability with children. So we're not using, not describing the children as low ability or the bottom group of children. And we invite you to think about the language you use to describe these children. It's likely that the children who need the extra small group work are those children who've had fewer experiences of number at home, and they just need some experiences to help them catch up and keep up with their peers. So those activities are offered to help you provide a really equitable approach to maths education in your reception class. But for all children, we want all children to have experiences of maths in the wider provision outside that short whole group session. So you can see here some pictures of a teacher who's used the planning to put some lovely activities in his wider provision, and no doubt brought his own kind of creativity to this as well. So there's lots of opportunities for teachers to work together to decide which of the activities we offer are appropriate for your children in your setting, and it will all match the maths that is being taught in the main lesson. So I've got a quote here from a teacher that was engaged in the programme a few years ago. He's a really experienced reception teacher, and he said after using mastering number for a year, he said that maths oozes from the pores of his classroom now, and all children are enjoying learning mathematics. So what we hope for you is by the end of this year that maths is also oozing from the pores of your classroom. We thought that was a lovely way of describing what we want in our reception classrooms.
I'm going to share with you a short video clip now. It's an interview with a reception teacher who was engaged in the programme a few years ago. So listen to her experiences as Zoe talks about the programme, and you'll also see Zoe, the teacher, working with her children in class. So see what you notice and share with your colleagues.
Okay, today we are thinking all about the number 6. Can you show me the number 6?
My experience of the Mastering Number programme has been a really positive one. I think the difference it's made to the children is the fact that all of the children are coming along at the same pace. They all feel really confident in their use of number, and I think that's been helped by, for example, the training that I've had on my use of gesture and using our hands and our fingers.
Adriano knew that 5 and 1 is the same as
6.
Can we all say that? 5 and 1 is the same as 6.
We use STEM sentences a lot, and the children they know all of the STEM sentences and they love sharing them with me. So as soon as I say, how do we know that this shows me 5? The children all repeat really excitedly, we know there are 5
fingers on my hand.
And they love it, and they're enthusiastic and they're excited.
Ready with your thumbs? Is it 6 or not 6?
6.
Okay, I want you to tell your partner how you know. How many more?
One of the things they really love is talking to their talk partner. So it gives them a chance to rehearse what they're going to say. It gives their partner a chance to challenge what they say, whether they agree or disagree. And we've really tried to get the children listening to one another, not just one person talking and then the other person talking.
What was the number that we saw on the screen? 4. Can you all show me 4? Gigi, how did you know?
2 at the top and 2 at the bottom.
There are 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. And how many does that make altogether, Gigi?
4.
Okay, can we say a sentence about that then, everybody? Can you show me 2 and another 2? So start with your 4. So we've got 4 is made of 2 and 2, and double 2 is 4. Can you put your fingers together to prove to me that that's a double? Have your fingers got a partner?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our double number.
When we first started the programme, I think we were initially a little bit sceptical about it because we found from some of our baseline assessments that our children had come up with quite a strong baseline and the programme was going quite slowly initially. But now we're reaping the benefits of that because that's when it brought along all of the other children, got them all to a very similar level, and now they've got such a good underpinning of maths now to take forward with them. Their ability to subitize and their composition of number is all really strong now, and I think I can see how that is then going to help them as they move into Key Stage 1.
Subitizing is what looking at a number and then not counting it and they know the number.
So I wonder what you noticed. Of course, when we're working with you in a Zoom room, we'll be able to you'll be able to share your ideas by putting things into chat, and we'll be able to respond to you. So I'm guessing maybe you were thinking that all the children were focused on the same aspect of maths together. So in that lesson, the teacher was using a PowerPoint slide. That was appropriate because the children were being asked, is this a pattern showing 6 or not 6? And so all children's attention was focused on that. So they were using those spatial patterns of number. So they used the counters on the board, and they were also using their fingers, weren't they, to make some numbers and to see the structure of those numbers in that sort of spatial way, using their finger patterns. Children were being given opportunities to talk to each other, to share their ideas before sharing with the class, and they were building on each other's ideas, and the teacher was supporting that. So that development of oracy strategies is part of the programme, and indeed Teaching for Mastery more widely, because we know that when we use oracy as a tool to develop children's mathematical thinking, that we're providing a much more equitable access to the maths. So oracy is important across the curriculum, but we really believe it's particularly important in maths lessons. And then when the teacher was being interviewed, she was talking about the benefit of using these small steps. She said at the beginning of the programme they were a bit sceptical, but towards the end of the programme they could see that it was bringing the children along together. Children weren't being left behind in lessons because they'd had those small steps, and they'd really made sure at the beginning of the year that all children were able to access the maths. So perhaps in a few weeks or a few months, you might have the same feelings as Zoe, and you might say to a colleague, I think this is a little bit easy. So just remind yourself of what Zoe said, that it is going to pay dividends in the longer term as all children are developed and come along together. I hope that's given you a good flavour of what mastering number will look like in reception. So let's turn our attention now to Key Stage 1. So as I said earlier, it's about developing children's factual fluency, so there's a real focus on that. It's a short whole class session, and these sessions in Key Stage 1 are intended to be in addition to the main maths lesson. We advise that you don't use this as a mental oral starter. It's really a lot more focused than that. And as I know as an experienced Year 1 teacher particularly, that if we do a focused 10 minutes with children in Year 1, they're not then going to be very focused if you then move into your main maths lesson. So think about your timetabling. When is the best time for you to have that focused 10 minutes? So in the materials, there's a clear progression in the teaching of number facts, and we'll be exploring that with you in the teachers' sessions. The teaching of these number facts and some strategies for calculating across 10 are really explicit. So we know that that's going to have a particularly beneficial impact on previously lower attaining pupils who we know do benefit from this explicit instruction. Conceptual understanding is developed with your children. So although we are about children learning number facts, it's not about rote learning and just relying on memory strategies. It's about developing children's conceptual understanding alongside that procedural fluency. So that's really a teaching for mastery approach, and we know that that's going to have most impact on children. When children can understand the maths and they're given sufficient practice, they're much more likely to remember and retain that learning. So at this point, as busy teachers, you might be starting to think, particularly if you're a Key Stage 1 teacher, this seems to be a lot of extra time to fit in. We're really busy. You will need the support of your leaders to decide when to timetable mastering number sessions. But I'm just going to share with you this part of the Ofsted subject report from 2023. And it talks about children's gaps in knowledge in mathematics tending to be centred around addition, and I'm going to add subtraction facts in the younger year groups. And it talks about how these gaps in knowledge may actually become apparent until later on. When children go into Key Stage 2, for example, and if you're in Year 3 and you're teaching column methods, that's really difficult if children don't have those number facts to automaticity. So what we're suggesting is that this work is really important. You do need to find the time to do it because otherwise children will start to get left behind. And you know, as a school, that it's much harder to start to catch up if you've been left behind early on. So getting it right from the beginning is really, really important. So which facts do need to be learnt and when do they need to be learnt? We'll be using the DFE guidance throughout the programme, and I would say if you're a maths lead here today and you're not familiar with this guidance, please do download it and get to know it. It's a really, really useful document. So these are the facts that are listed in the guidance that children need to be developing fluency in. It does look like a lot of facts, and indeed it is. However, when we're thinking about those facts within 10, if we start with those, if children know that 5 plus 2 has the same sum or the same total as 2 plus 5, then of course we can really reduce the number of facts that children need to learn. So suddenly 66 facts for addition within 10 can be reduced to 36 facts. And then, of course, there's all the related subtraction facts, and we'll think about how we're going to support children learn those in a few moments. Then looking at those facts where the sum is greater than 10, where we're bridging through 10, we'll also be working in Year 2 on how to develop strategies so that children are really confident in using and understanding a strategy for calculating addition and subtraction facts when we're looking at those calculations across 10. So those facts across 10 are going to be built on in Year 3 to develop fluency. But I would say as a maths lead, I'd be really wanting the children in our school to develop fluency and automaticity with some of these facts across 10. So I'm looking at those doubles facts. Wouldn't it be really good if all of your children by the end of Year 2 knew the doubles facts, for example? That's not just going to support them with near doubles, but also when they're multiplying by 2, they can apply those doubles facts to those multiplication facts as well. You might be thinking, why do we need to spend so much time on this? Or maybe you're thinking, my children can already do these sorts of calculations. I've taught them to count on or to count back, or maybe they've taught themselves to do that, and they're really quick at it. So why do we need to spend so much time on this? So we'd say that even if children are quite competent and quite quick at using counting procedures to calculate, it's still a disservice leaving them with those counting strategies because they become more and more inefficient. So there's some research here. It's quite old research from 1991, but I'm sure as a teacher this will resonate with you. It certainly resonated with me when I first read this. So Gray and Toole suggests that children who use counting procedures to solve addition and subtraction facts are in fact using what they describe as more complex procedures with more possibility of error. And those children that are left only with counting strategies, for them, the arithmetic, I'd suggest maths more widely, becomes increasingly more difficult. So I'm sure as a Key Stage 2 teacher, if you've taught in Key Stage 2, you know those pupils who end up counting with their fingers in ones. Often they start counting, putting their fingers under the table. They know that there's something different about what other children are doing, but they can't do it themselves. So by working on these facts, we're making things a lot more equitable. So some other research, Willingham here is suggesting that if children have got automatic recall of basic maths facts, that's actually critical to solving complex problems because complex problems have got simpler problems embedded in them. Of course, if you've spent time on a word problem and you've worked out what maths you need to do, and suddenly that maths also, the actual calculation is difficult and you don't have those basic facts, then of course that's much harder for children. So another reason to be developing fluency in those basic facts. So I'm going to give you a little preview now of some of the subject knowledge that we'll be exploring in a lot more detail in our sessions. So how do we develop fluency and automaticity with all of these number facts? Well, the basis of all of the work that you're going to be doing is all about the composition of numbers. So I talked about that as an aspect of number sense, and it's a really crucial part of children developing fluency in both addition and subtraction. So I'm going to start by sharing with you a really short clip of some children in a year one class. They're using a Rec and Rec and they're using some mastering number materials to explore the composition of the numbers 6 and 7, and they're looking at it in a particular way. So see what you notice with this clip.
Six is made of 5 and 1. Very good. Okay, what number have we got here? Can you make it on your Rec and Rec? Well done, Thea. Well done, Mila.
I
See. So what number have you made? What number have we got all together here?
7.
Good. Where's the 5? So 7 is made of... And... House again? So you're going to make 7. Lovely. Can you show where the 5 is? So there's 7 is made of 5 and 2. Lovely. Thank you, Phoebe.
So I got the 7. Take away the 2. And here's the 5. If I just take away the 2, and then I've got the 5. I will get the 5. But if I put it back on, I'll get the 7.
You could see the children there were really confident and they could see that 7 was made of 5 and 2. And of course, that same number relationship can be represented in a part-part-whole diagram, which is what I've done here. So we can see that the whole is 7 and the parts in this example are 5 and 2. That stem sentence matches the representation that the children have seen on the Rec and Rec, and it also matches the part-part-whole diagram. We can say that 7 is made of 5 and 2, 5 and 2 make 7. And it's really important that when children see those representations either on their fingers or on the Rec and Rec, that when you are using part-part-whole diagrams in class, that you help them make those connections, and that language of the whole and the parts is going to be really helpful to them. It's also really critical that they see the relationships between the whole and the parts when they're looking at both addition and subtraction. So you can see here that we've got 2 addition equations. So think to yourself, which are the parts and which are the whole? Of course, you know that the parts of 5 and 2 Those are the numbers that we're adding together, and we can call those parts, or we can use the mathematical term when it's in an equation. Those are addends. So in an addition, the addends are the parts. Of course, it's not just in addition where we're looking at parts and wholes, though. So have a look at these subtraction equations, and this might push you thinking a little bit, and we'll explore it more in the central sessions. You can see the 5 and the 2 are in both of those subtraction equations. So the parts are still there. So the number that we're subtracting is one of the parts, and the answer is one of the other parts. So the number we're subtracting, we're going to call the subtrahend, and the answer in a subtraction, if you like, is the difference. So we can say that the parts in a subtraction are the subtrahend and the difference. So they're the parts in both addition and subtraction. And of course, it's the same for the whole, isn't it? The whole is 7, and in addition, the whole is the sum or the total, and in a subtraction, it's what we call the minuend. It's the number that we're subtracting from. I think many children see the links easily between how numbers are composed and addition, but I don't think they see the links so easily with subtraction. But if I know that 7 is made of 5 and 2, and then I'm faced with a calculation like 7 minus 5, I could either think to myself, well, I know that 7 is the whole. I could draw a part whole diagram and put 5 in and think, 7 is made of 5 and that'll be 2. Or I could think to myself, 5 needs 2 to make 7. Either way, I can get that difference, the answer, without needing to do that difficult counting back. Counting back is really hard. It's really high load on working memory. If you just have a go at doing it, put 7 in your head and keep track, counting back 5. That's actually more difficult than just applying your knowledge of how numbers are composed. So that's a really key part of that subject knowledge for year 1 and year 2, right across the year in Mastering Number. So you've seen children using the Reckon Recs. They'll also be using their finger patterns to represent numbers, and you can see there that double dice frame. It's a Hungarian number pattern, and that's another key representation in the programme. So what we're using the representations for is to help children see the structure of the mathematics, not using the Reckon Rec to find the answer or counting with their fingers, but to see the structure of the maths. So again, that's something we'll be talking to you teachers about throughout the programme, and that's an important part of teaching for mastery. Children will also be encouraged to visualise these numbers, so seeing numbers as a quantity is really key in the programme, so that they don't always need to have a Reckon Rec beside them, that they can visualise it. So we'll be using the representation, but we're planning a way so that the children don't always need to have it with them. You'll have seen in that year 1 clip as well that we're using the number blocks in our teaching materials. So there'll be some slides where you can see pictures of the number blocks, and the number blocks are going to talk to your pupils. There's some short clips embedded in the slides in the teaching materials, so you don't have to go hunting for the episode. There's about a 60-second clip that's focusing on the particular bit of maths that we're looking at in the session. So this is really engaging to the children, but of course it's helping them see the structure of the mathematics. So in that clip you saw the teacher was asking the children to find the 5 inside the numbers 6 and 7. So here we've got an animation to see that. So seeing the 5 inside the numbers 6, 7, 8 and 9 is a really important structure of the mathematics of those numbers within 10. So we're coming towards the end of this session. We hope you're really getting excited about embarking on the programme. We're certainly looking forward to working with you as a primary team here at the NCTM. And I know that the workgroup leads in your maths hubs are also really looking forward to working with you. So as a school leader, obviously you're going to be thinking about how you prepare to implement this programme. So I'm going to share with you some strategies that we know from previous years are really important to be thinking about at this point. So your lead teachers, if you're here as a lead teacher, you'll be getting an email inviting you to join something called NCETM Axis. That's not the normal NCTM website. It's a closed part of the website that you'll need to have a password for and get into. So do make sure you get into Access. That's where all the teaching materials are going to sit. So if you don't get the teaching materials, you can't get started with your children. Do plan the timetabling, and particularly in Key Stage 1 where it's that additional part of your day. In reception, it's going to be the main maths lesson for your number work, and we will talk to reception teachers more about the other aspects of the maths curriculum in their first session. Do check the dates and times of those sessions that your lead teachers will be engaging with, both the central sessions that will be coming up shortly with us here at the NCTM and also the local sessions with your Maths Hub. Plan to get those in the diary. Some of the sessions are in the morning and some are in the afternoon. If your session as a school covers the morning session, one of your teachers in each of those sessions each term will unfortunately have to attend for about half an hour of the lunchtime session. We're working with so many schools that we have to fit in many sessions over a few weeks, and we do unfortunately have to work partly through lunchtime. So if you're aware of that as a school leader and you're able to give your teacher perhaps half an hour at 1 o'clock so that they're not getting anxious about getting their classroom ready for their afternoon session, we know that that would be really appreciated by teachers and will enable them to engage really fully with those sessions. Likewise, if you've got an afternoon session, one of the sessions is from 4 o'clock till 5 o'clock. We do rotate, so it's not always the same teacher from the year group that goes to that afternoon session after school. But again, if you are able to release your teachers so that they've got a chance to get their class ready for the next day, we know that will be appreciated. Do plan, of course, for cover to be available. You'll need to have half a day's cover, whether you're the afternoon or the morning session, and that cover will be moving from classroom to classroom. So do make sure that you've got that available. We'd advise that you or your maths lead checks in with your teachers after those sessions. It might be that your maths lead is best placed to do that, and they can talk to them about what they've learnt. Is there anything that's not clear to them? Anything they think that they need to talk about? Perhaps there's a slight conflict between what you're doing in Mastering Number and your main session, and you might just need to unpack that together. And then finally, do think, if you're a multi-form entry school, how you're going to cascade that training to other teachers in the same year group. It might be that you're able to timetable things such that those teachers can attend the training sessions together. That would be fantastic, because then those conversations can happen close to the training. But do know also that we will record these training sessions at the central sessions, and those will be made available on Access a week or so after the central training. So you could perhaps facilitate, as a leader, some time for your teachers to sit together to watch those sessions together. They can pause them, of course, and think about how that relates to their own teaching, some of the practices that they'll be needing to develop. So I hope that's useful for you as a leader or a lead teacher. Just be to start to think about how you're going to make the most of this programme and make sure that all of your teachers can engage fully in it. What's coming up next for you then as a school? Well, for the lead teachers, your first professional development sessions with us at the NCTM will be starting in September for some schools, and some schools their session will be going into October. The head teachers will be meeting you again for an hour-long session from 4 o'clock till 5 o'clock, and the dates for those across the Maths Hubs are the end of October, and some of you will be into early November. We do suggest that if it's possible to bring your maths lead along to that session as well. We'd ask that you don't share the Zoom link, because otherwise we'll go over the number that we're allowed to have in those Zoom sessions, and some people then might not be able to get into the session. But if they're able to sit with you in the same device, then they'd be more than welcome to join those sessions. We'll be talking more about implementation, some of the strategies that we know schools have used in the past to really make sure that Mastering Number has impact both on your teachers' professional learning and practice, but most importantly that has impact on your pupils. skills. So you really make the most of the programme that's available to you this year. So we're really looking forward to getting started with you. And of course, in your Maths Hubs, there'll be some local sessions. So do look out for emails from your Maths Hub to give you details of when those local sessions are. So we've come to the end of today's session. Huge thank you to you all for coming along and listening today. I hope it's been helpful to you. And as I say, we're really looking forward to working with you over the course of the year. So bye for now, everybody.